There is a profound misconception in the way we have been taught about financial management. From childhood, we are instilled with the belief that to achieve abundance, it is essential to toil diligently, rise early, dedicate ourselves to our studies, and persist relentlessly. However, if this tenet were accurate, why do such a vast number of brilliant, dedicated, and diligent individuals remain trapped in a cycle of scarcity? Why do we observe human beings with 2 or 3 university degrees, fluent in several languages, living in debt, while others, without any university qualifications, seem to attract opulence with an almost supernatural ease? What knowledge do they possess that others do not? The explanation is simple, yet intriguing. Money does not serve those who relentlessly pursue it, it serves those who understand its energetic essence. I learned this lesson through bitter experiences. There was a period when my annual income was only $4,000, and my debts totaled $6,000. I felt bankrupt, discouraged, adrift. Until an individual presented me with a literary work, Think and Grow Rich. That was a turning point. I understood that the challenge never lay in a lack of information, but rather in the mental framework that dictated my thoughts. And it is precisely on this point that I wish to converse with you. How to reprogram your mind and allow money to work for you, instead of you working for it. For a long period, I was convinced that success was merely a consequence of dedication. I was educated under the premise that those who strive fervently achieve victory, and that financial resources come to those who excel in their efforts. And, motivated by this belief, I operated incessantly. I worked additional hours, took on tasks that were not mine, sought to make a good impression to gain recognition. However, deep down, the more I dedicated myself, the more money seemed to elude me. It was comparable to running on a treadmill. I moved, sweated, tired myself out, but remained stagnant. And perhaps you have experienced a similar sensation, the feeling of being perpetually in battle, always trying, but without seeing the desired fruits. The reality is that diligence alone does not breed prosperity. It generates exhaustion. There is a substantial distinction between proceeding with intentionality and proceeding out of anguish. I met individuals who labored for 15 hours a day, honest, hardworking, and yet were always in debt. And I met others who appeared to do considerably less, but every one of their initiatives resulted in abundance. This perplexed me. Why did certain people seem to possess the ability to turn everything into success, while others spent their lives resolving monetary crises? The elucidation lay within, not in the external environment. Application is relevant, of course, but it needs to be guided by a vigilant intellect and a harmonized vibration. Striving vigorously with a perspective of scarcity is akin to trying to fill a leaking vessel. Regardless of the amount deposited, everything drains away. I experienced this reality firsthand. When I began my entrepreneurial journey, I dedicated entire days to driving the development of my venture. I held the conviction that the more I dedicated myself, the more readily money would manifest. However, it did not materialize. On the contrary, it seemed that the harder I pushed, the further the outcome seemed. Until one day, completely exhausted, I stopped. I literally took a break. And then, I perceived something that completely transformed my perspective. My dedication stemmed from an inadequate source, from fear, from scarcity, from lack. I worked with the intention of escaping misery, not pursuing fortune. And the cosmos responds to vibrations, not mere intentions. If your actions are driven by absence, you will continue to attract more absence. However, when you act with serenity, with security, convinced of your own worth, events begin to unfold with spontaneity. Reflect for an instant, how many times have you strived desperately for something and felt it slip through your fingers? And how many times, by simply relaxing and trusting, have circumstances begun to align without such an exaggerated effort? This is not chance. It is vibrational alignment. The principle governing dedication is identical to the one commanding gravity. It is infallible. And when you understand that money does not react to imposition, but to clarity, your conduct changes radically. Financial resources are like a watercourse. They flow to where there is openness, guidance, and stability. But if you seek to dominate them with fear or apprehension, you create imperceptible barriers that obstruct their flow. I recall a period when I worked for the Toronto Fire Department. My salary was modest, I felt constrained and was convinced that I needed to dedicate myself even more to overcome that condition. I was unaware that what I lacked was not application, but discernment. On one occasion, an individual handed me a copy of Think and Grow Rich. I did not immediately grasp the entirety of its content, but that reading planted a seed of an idea. It led me to understand that the key was not to act more, but to think differently. Muscular energy devoid of mental clarity is comparable to trying to move a fixed structure. Genuine power comes from the congruence between your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. And perhaps this represents the most significant illusion of our era, assuming that success is equivalent to exhaustion. Most of humanity believes a sacrifice is necessary to triumph, when in reality, it is precisely this self-sacrifice that prevents them from flourishing. 4. When one works in a state of fatigue, distressed, fearing loss, tension falls on deprivation, and what you focus your energy on amplifies. On the other hand, when one works with delight, with inspiration, visualizing the outcome, the cosmos collaborates in the realization of that goal. You begin to generate innovative ideas, to discern opportunities that previously went unnoticed, to attract the appropriate individuals. This is not a mere coincidence, it is a resonance. Consider the following: if dedication were the sole determinant factor of success, the worker who gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and uses 3 forms of public transport daily would be a multimillionaire. However, the dynamic does not operate that way. Diligence without perception is merely a means of subsistence. Effort with a clear objective, that indeed, is synonymous with opulence. And to convert effort into a purpose, it is imperative to change the origin of your labor. Ask yourself, am I performing this action because I desire to progress or because I fear scarcity? The cosmos does not react to your verbalizations, it responds to your energetic frequency. What truly transforms your existence is not the scope of your actions, but the depth of your conviction in what you execute. When you operate with belief and security, time seems to align in your favor. Financial resources begin to flow, new opportunities emerge, and toil ceases to be a burden and transforms into satisfaction. You begin to dedicate yourself not merely to exist, but to develop. Money is not the product of your physical exertion, it is the mirror of your emotional energy. And the moment that energy changes, your entire reality is modified. The path to opulence is not paved by sweat and suffering, but by perception and harmonization. It is not about greedily pursuing money, but about learning to coexist and flow with it. By assimilating this truth, dedication transforms into a spontaneous flow, and money becomes a collaborator that works by your side, instead of an antagonist. Everything in the vast expanse of the cosmos is energetic in constitution. Every ideation, every sensation, every choice you make emanates a certain frequency. And money, however concrete and material it may appear, is merely another form of energy. It moves, resonates, reacts, propels itself towards those who are in vibrational consonance with it. And this clarifies why certain individuals seem to attract abundance with remarkable ease, while others toil throughout their lives to keep their financial obligations in order. Money does not approach those who yearn for it with affliction, it manifests for those who decipher its current and learn to tune into the same cadence. The moment I began to discern this reality, everything in my life transformed. I understood that the dynamic of money was not linked to physical exertion, but rather to psychological conditioning. The issue lies in the fact that most people live in continuous discord with this energetic essence. They verbalize the desire to prosper, but simultaneously harbor feelings of guilt when acquiring, fear of losing, and jealousy of those who possess. Such emotions generate a frequency of scarcity, and the universe replicates precisely this condition, deprivation. It is analogous to trying to tune into a different radio station without adjusting the dial, you will never catch the appropriate melody. Money is attracted by clarity, not by obscurity. It appreciates dynamism, not opposition. It is for this reason that when you experience fear, when you doubt your own capabilities, when you assume that financial resources are an obstacle or something impure, you intercept the flow. The flow of monetary energy dwindles, and you begin to notice this in countless ways: ventures that don't prosper, opportunities that slip away, unplanned expenses, delays, unexpected events. All of this reflects the inner state of those who still believe in the scarcity of money. Yet, when you shift your perception of it, your entire environment starts to reconfigure itself. I often say that capital is like a mirror. It reflects your inner feelings about yourself. If you are convinced of your worth, your capabilities, and that money can serve as a tool for growth and collaboration, it draws closer to you. However, if you harbor the belief that you are undeserving, or that the success of others poses a threat, it distances itself. The energetic essence of money is impartial, you assign its meaning. It's like electrical current, it can illuminate a home or start a fire, everything depends on how you use it. I recall a time when I lived in fear of checking my bank statement. I would look at the statement and feel a tightness in my chest, a heavy burden, as if money were an enemy. I saw it as something that caused me anguish, and it was precisely that connection I manifested: more distress, more scarcity, more apprehension. On one occasion, my mentor revealed something to me I've never forgotten: wealth will never come to someone who fears it. And I understood. I needed to transform my mindset before I could change my reality. From that day onward, whenever I handled my wallet, my phone, or observed any representation of value, I would mentally say, financial resources flow freely to me, from known and unknown sources. At first, I lacked conviction. But, by reiterating it with emotion, something began to shift. The discomfort gave way to gratitude. I stopped viewing money as something distant and began to feel it was an inherent part of my existence. When you grasp that money is energy, you begin to perceive signs everywhere. An idea that emerges unexpectedly, an individual presenting the exact opportunity, an investment that thrives surprisingly. This isn't mere coincidence, it's resonance. You've adjusted your internal frequency and, as a result, the universe has begun to respond. The secret lies in feeling before seeing. The human mind has been programmed to believe only in what is tangible, but energy operates in reverse: first you believe, feel, and emit, and only then do you witness the manifested result. Observe your surroundings. The individuals who prosper most are not necessarily the most intelligent or the most hardworking. They are those who have understood the flow. They don't impose wealth, they attract it. Because they trust. Because they emit abundance. They don't wake up worried about what they might lose, they wake up enthusiastic about what they can generate. This is the distinction between a life of scarcity and a life of opulence. And make no mistake, opulence isn't just about possessing vast financial resources. It's about having peace. It's about having the autonomy to choose what to do with your time. It's knowing that the universe is generous and that there is always plenty for everyone. When you begin to vibrate at this feeling, you naturally become a magnet for prosperity. Opportunities seem to appear out of nowhere, but in reality, they were always present, you were simply tuned to the wrong frequency. Modern science already affirms what spiritual philosophy has always known: everything is vibration. Quantum mechanics demonstrates that the observer alters perceived reality. This means that the mere act of changing how you view financial resources already begins to transform your behavior, your decisions, and consequently, your outcomes. Reflecting on abundance isn't empty optimism, it's brain reconditioning. When you think abundantly, your brain begins to secrete dopamine and serotonin, substances associated with stimulation and inventiveness. And when you feel creative and motivated, you make better decisions. Do you understand the sequence? Energy begins internally and materializes externally. Wealth is energy, but it is also a response. It reacts to your confidence, your clarity, and your gratitude. And if currently it seems unattainable, perhaps it's not due to external absence, but internal opposition. The energy of money is constantly accessible, just like a radio station's frequency. You just need to adjust your mental tuner and tune into the vibration of opulence. And when you do that genuinely, you will realize that financial resources were never the issue. The issue lay in how you resonated. Most individuals believe they have control over their own existence, but the truth is that more than 90% of everything you do is guided by subconscious conditioning. It starts in early childhood, molded by the beliefs, fears, and expressions you heard from your parents. And the most peculiar thing is that this conditioning, most of the time, does not belong to you. It's inherited. These are ideas and behaviors you repeat unconsciously, like a melody resonating in the core of your mind and setting the rhythm of your economic life. That's why, even when aware of what to undertake, you remain tied to the same outcomes. You can dedicate yourself to finances, attend training sessions, consult works on abundance. If your subconscious is directed towards scarcity, you will always find ways to validate that belief. This conditioning is subtle, yet influential. It manifests in simple sayings, in fleeting thoughts, in your response to wealth. When affluence is mentioned by someone, do you feel inspired or skeptical? When witnessing others' success, do you think, I can replicate that, or, it was just luck? These instinctive responses are the precise mirror of your inner directive. And the greatest risk is that, until it's redefined, you will continue to self-sabotage, even unintentionally. I have seen individuals with remarkable talents, brilliant ideas, and exemplary professional conduct, living on the brink of economic collapse, because intimately they were convinced they weren't worthy of anything more. I recall the first occasion when I identified this in myself. I came from a humble background, surrounded by sayings like, money doesn't grow on trees, he who desires too much achieves nothing, the wealthy are greedy. These notions seemed benign, but they laid deep foundations. And every time my income increased, an event would emerge, an unforeseen expense, a hasty decision, a failed venture. It was as if an unseen force was pulling me back to the starting point. Until I realized, it wasn't the universe conspiring against me, but my psyche striving to preserve what was familiar to it. The subconscious doesn't crave what's better, but what's familiar. And if the familiar is scarcity, it will keep you in it, even if it causes suffering. The transformation began when I understood the need to recondition my inner world, and not just modify external behavior. I started to analyze my thoughts carefully, like someone watching a projection. Whenever I caught myself with thoughts like, this is too complex, I'll never achieve it, I don't have luck, I would interrupt and replace the expression with another. At first it sounded artificial, but repetition forges new neural connections. Modern neuroscience confirms this. Every repeated thought strengthens a neural pathway, and the more you repeat it, the more automatic it becomes. So, I began to nurture my subconscious with new conceptions. I would tell myself, financial resources come to me with ease, I am worthy of progressing, opulence is inherent. And with each reiteration, I noticed a slight unease. It was the old conditioning resisting. However, I persisted. Gradually, a shift began. I started to see financial resources from a different perspective. I stopped viewing opportunities as risks and began to perceive them as incentives. The continuous fear of loss was replaced by an expanding serenity. It was as if I finally allowed myself to accept. And that's when I understood, internal conditioning doesn't change by imposition, but by persistence. It needs to be replaced, not confronted. You don't overcome fear by trying to push it away, you master it by cultivating belief until it strengthens. Many people ask me why, despite having extensive financial knowledge, they remain stagnant. And I always answer, the issue doesn't lie in your knowledge, but in your beliefs. You may master all concepts of investments, organization, and economics, but if deep down the conviction remains that, this doesn't belong to me, or, I wasn't meant to be wealthy, your psyche will find ways to undermine the outcomes. It's like driving with the handbrake on, you do move forward, but with sacrifice and exhaustion. Reflect on this. On how many occasions have you conceived a great idea, something with the potential to transform your existence, but hesitated due to fear of failure? How many opportunities did you neglect because you believed yourself unprepared? This hesitation doesn't stem from logic, but from conditioning. It is the inner voice that asserts, this isn't for you. But it deceives. Because everything becomes feasible when you alter the vibration of your mind. You have been accustomed to believing in non-existent barriers. To start reshaping this conditioning, it requires more than mere optimistic thinking. It requires feeling, imagining, and acting as if the new conviction were already a reality. The subconscious doesn't understand words, but feelings. When you express gratitude for resources that have yet to manifest, you send a powerful vibrational message to the cosmos, I am already prosperous. And the universe responds. My experience was no different. I began to act as if I had already achieved financial independence, and my environment started to reorganize itself to reflect that reality. New people appeared, fresh ideas emerged, opportunities unveiled themselves. And it all originated in the mental universe. The reality is, you don't attract what you want, but rather what you believe you deserve. And as long as your inner conditioning is rooted in fear, obligation, and limitation, wealth will continue to elude you. However, when you intentionally decide to change your beliefs, by choosing a different way of thinking and living it with conviction, a new focal point of attraction is established. And it is at this precise moment that the miracle manifests, not externally, but within your very being. For monetary prosperity is merely the tangible representation of what you imperceptibly radiate with each passing day. My understanding revealed that repetition constitutes the language of the subconscious mind. Any genuine change remains unattainable without it. The human psyche resembles fertile soil, everything sown there, over time, develops roots. And the more you nourish that seed, through affirmations, visualizations, and feelings, the deeper it takes root, until it merges with your identity. That's how I completely rewrote my narrative. In the beginning, I had absolutely nothing. My annual income barely exceeded $4,000 and my debts amounted to $6,000. It was a pattern of disillusionment and distress that seemed insurmountable. However, a simple, almost trivial, element initiated a complete turnaround, the practice of repetition. For the first time, I encountered Earl Nightingale's audio recordings and resolved to listen to them daily. And so I did. At home, in the car, while commuting, before going to sleep. I listened to them incessantly, until the verbal content ceased to be mere sound waves and became incorporated into my very being. Initially, my logical intellect resisted. It argued it was futile, but continuously hearing the same sentences couldn't change my circumstances. Yet, gradually, I began to perceive a subtle, almost imperceptible transformation, germinating within me. It was as if these affirmations were clearing a clouded lens that, for a long time, had prevented me from recognizing my genuine potential. The subconscious layer of the mind doesn't distinguish between reality and fantasy, it merely reacts to what is emotionally reinforced. And that's why countless individuals remain stuck in the same pattern. They echo, every single day, conjectures of apprehension, declarations of scarcity, tales of failure. Each day, they solidify the belief that wealth is hard to come by, that they are not worthy of flourishing, that success is reserved for others. Inadvertently, they are reconditioning their own mental faculty for limitation. The practice of repetition is constant. The fundamental question is, what have you been repeating? Upon deliberately beginning to apply this principle, my entire reality transformed. I wrote a simple sentence on a small card: I am immensely satisfied and grateful at this moment for earning $25,000 annually. The exact moment I wrote it, I had no faith in it. I was financially ruined, in debt, without prospects. However, my mentor had conviction, and I chose to lean on his belief until my own manifested. I examined that card daily, in the morning and at nightfall. And I didn't just examine it, I lived it. I closed my eyes and visualized myself immersed in that existence. I felt the tranquility of settling all financial obligations, the ease of watching wealth grow, the satisfaction of being able to help other individuals. I mentally projected this situation with such fervor that my subconscious core began to assimilate this conception as a truth. And it was from that point that the transformations began. Firstly, subtly, a new client, an unforeseen idea, a favorable opportunity that I would have previously overlooked. Subsequently, more tangible outcomes emerged, my income began to climb, and that goal of $25,000, which seemed unattainable, materialized. Next, the $100,000 mark was reached, and then, the $1 million mark. The foundation was never in the fortune. It consisted of repetition. However, there is an aspect that few understand: mere mechanical repetition is not enough. It is imperative that there be feeling. Emotion is the energy that gives vitality to the idea. It is what persuades the subconscious intellect that a certain thing is true. When you experience joy, appreciation, enthusiasm while uttering something, the vibrational frequency of these feelings permeates the deepest layers of consciousness. In this way, new convictions are rooted. And when these convictions develop, your existential reality shifts to mirror what resides within your core. The power of repetition lies in transforming what is unattainable into something inescapable. When you assimilate auditorily, visually, and proclaim the same concepts in your daily routine, your brain begins a process of restructuring neural connections. Neuroscience corroborates this fact. Nerve cells that are activated in synchrony establish connections. That is, with each instance you reiterate a new belief, you strengthen a new neural pathway, while the pre-existing one, linked to scarcity, gradually weakens. And a point is reached where the innovative concept becomes intrinsic. It is at this point that change becomes effective, when the mindset of prosperity ceases to be an effort and transforms into your inherent configuration. I appreciate affirming that repetition is the most expeditious path between aspiration and realization. For what you repeat becomes what you believe, and what you believe determines what you attract. Most human beings wait to feel secure before taking action. However, security emerges from repetition. You don't wait to be in full condition to change, you enact the change and, subsequently, find yourself in full condition. Currently, when discussing this topic, some individuals consider it overly simplistic. And, in fact, it is simple. However, simple does not equate to easy. It is a daily dedication. It implies contemplating your own reflection daily and affirming the individuality you are shaping, even when the fruits are not yet discernible. It is about sustaining conviction in what is not apparent to the eyes until it becomes manifestable. Repetition transmutes hesitation into certainty. It converts "I wish" into "I am." And when your subconscious mind embraces a new reality, the entire cosmos begins to move in conformity with it. I have witnessed this phenomenon occur hundreds of times, both in my own experience and in that of thousands of individuals across the globe. Everything begins with one elementary decision, to repeat, each day, until the newly acquired concept replaces the preceding one. Because what you repeat builds what you experience. And when you learn to replicate the appropriate vibrational frequency, existence has no alternative but to respond in the same cadence. The universe abhors a vacuum. This is one of the most effective and, simultaneously, most neglected fundamentals in the context of abundance. Most of humanity desires to summon the new, yet declines to abandon the obsolete. They wish for financial resources to circulate, but remain trapped by the fear of losing the minuscule amount they possess. They yearn for opportunities, but persist in filling the space with that which no longer holds relevance. And it is precisely at this point that the entire process stagnates. For the cosmos cannot fill what is already saturated. For something innovative to enter, it is essential to create an opening. For an extended period, this understanding was foreign to me. I accumulated items, obligations, individuals, beliefs. I stored clothes I didn't use, preserved articles that no longer served a purpose, maintained interpersonal ties that no longer stimulated me. I convinced myself that I was acting cautiously, that it was a form of safeguarding. However, in essence, I was afraid. Fearful of clearing spaces and having nothing to fill them with. And it is this apprehension that keeps most human beings confined to the same state for an entire lifetime. They proclaim the desire for transformation, but cling tenaciously to what keeps them in inertia. I recall one singular episode one experienced some time ago. I had returned from a conference in Toronto, motivated, determined to implement all the acquired teachings. Upon entering my home, I noticed the absence of my kitchen furniture. Literally. I inquired about what had happened, and the answer was, "You insist on verbalizing the need to create space for the new, so we decided to help you realize that idea." I smiled, but at that instant, a profound revelation struck me. When you discard what no longer serves its purpose, the cosmos readily occupies the void with something superior. And that is precisely what happened. In a short span of time, I moved into a larger, more aesthetically pleasing residence, one more aligned with the path I was charting for myself. The same principle applies to financial capital. If you want it to flow freely, it's essential to create an opening for it, not just in a material sense, but also emotionally and cognitively. Cleanse your thinking. Remove statements like, "I can't afford that, that's beyond my reach," or "I need to hold on to what I have." Such beliefs create energetic blockages. Capital is energy, and energy only flows when there's dynamism. When you hold back, hoard, or cling to it, you stop the current. It's like trying to breathe while holding your breath. Sooner or later, you'll run out of air. Consider how this manifests in your daily routine. How many items do you keep solely out of fear that you might need them at some future point? How many situations do you tolerate for fear of being without? This apprehension of deprivation is what blocks the arrival of the new. Letting go isn't losing, it's preparing the ground. I've seen people completely transform their financial situations after simply organizing their homes, donating unused items, and cleaning out old spaces. It might seem like a symbolic gesture, but it isn't. The external landscape is a faithful mirror of the internal. By creating physical space, you send an undeniable vibrational message: I am ready for the new. And the cosmos responds. It invariably responds. Sometimes with favorable circumstances, sometimes with individuals, in other instances with ideas that emerge from the void. However, it can only respond when there's an open space for something to enter. Most people don't understand that excessive attachment is a manifestation of fear disguised as common sense. They claim to act with prudence, but in reality, they are communicating to the universe, I don't trust that something better will show up. And the cosmos complies. Abundance never imposes itself on those who choose restriction. Letting go of what's obsolete can create discomfort. For a brief moment, a feeling of instability descends. However, it's precisely in that void that the new emerges. By shedding what no longer serves you, a field of opportunities opens up. An existence fills that space with elements that resonate with your renewed frequency. This is one of the most effective principles I've ever practiced. Every time I've let go of something misaligned, be it a business, an agreement, a habit, or even an idea, something superior has invariably manifested. Not in a single instance, but in all occurrences. I recall the decision to leave my secure job at the Toronto Fire Department. At that time, it was everything I had. The fear of the unknown, of the void, of ambiguity surrounded me. Yet, an inner voice whispered, your essence is not to survive, but to evolve. When I made the resolution to leave, no tangible plan existed, only conviction. And it was that very conviction that paved the way for what was to come. Just a few months later, I had already founded my first venture, and wealth began to flow in ways I never would have conceived while I was tied to the past. This is the mystery most people overlook. For financial resources to work in your favor, it's crucial to allow them freedom. Foster circulation. Give something, invest in yourself, promote energetic exchange. Stagnant values deteriorate, just like still water. Wealth doesn't come from accumulation, but from dynamism. And dynamism requires security. When you trust, you let go. And when you let go, the cosmos understands it can intervene. Therefore, observe your surroundings. Identify what takes up space in your life without bringing you contentment, purpose, or growth. It could be an idea, a job, a relationship, a daily pattern. Everything that doesn't reflect your transformation needs to be cleared away. It's not about discarding, but about creating emptiness. By removing what is limited, you pave the way for what is expansive. By releasing what is old, the new reaches you. Prosperity isn't a reward you earn, but a flow you enable. And the initial step toward this permission is simple, yet powerful: detachment. For the cosmos, like capital, appreciates freedom of space. It will invariably fill the void with something that resonates with the frequency of your courage. And the more room you create, the greater the volume of abundance that can enter. There is a juncture in every path of transformation where something activates within you. It's that subtle, almost imperceptible turning point, where you finally understand that there's no going back. It's the watershed moment. I experienced this so profoundly that even today I recall the precise moment when my perception expanded to a new truth. And I wish for you to grasp, at this very moment, that perhaps this audiovisual content is your watershed moment. Because if you've made it this far, it's because a part of your essence has already chosen change. When I began applying the principles I share today, my life presented a different picture. I was trapped in a pattern of financial obligations, debts, and insecurity. I worked hard, but the outcome was never satisfying. I held the belief that life was demanding, that capital was a rare commodity, that fulfillment was reserved for a select few. Until one particular occasion, listening to one of the audio recordings I've mentioned before, something ignited within me. It was as if, for the first time, I had truly understood that I was the architect of my own circumstances. And in that moment, I decided I would never again live from a perspective of scarcity. It was like an essential transmutation. The universe didn't transform, I transformed. And as I transformed, the world began to mirror this new configuration of me. For this reason, before we proceed, I invite you to make a deliberate resolution. If, up to this point, any of my words have resonated with you, if a part of your consciousness has begun to expand, I want you to solidify this transition. Press the like button, join the channel's subscribers, and let this simple choice establish itself as your pact with transformation. Because every movement, however small, represents an affirmation of purpose. By choosing action, the cosmos begins its response. This is how life force operates. It requires direction, indication, guidance. When I embarked on my first endeavor, I had no idea how events would unfold. However, I learned a fundamental truth: it's not necessary to see the entire path, you just need to take the initial step with conviction. And this conviction isn't lacking in discernment, it's inventive. It's about the deep certainty that a higher power works in your favor when you engage. And suddenly, elements begin to align. Individuals appear, concepts blossom, opportunities manifest. And the most intriguing part is that all of this already continuously existed, but perception only begins when you change your mental vibration. The turning point manifests when you choose to stop identifying with scarcity. When you stop uttering, "I can't, I don't know, I won't succeed," and instead affirm, "I am learning, I am ready, I possess the ability." These subtle shifts in discourse shape your energetic spectrum. Scientific research already attests that the cerebral cortex doesn't distinguish between what you conceive and what you experience. Thus, by reiterating new concepts with feeling, your neural apparatus begins to react as if they were already concrete. And when your psyche embraces this new perspective, the physical plane readjusts to mirror it. I recall the period when I began to act as if I had already achieved success. I didn't yet possess the financial resources, but I already had the demeanor, the confidence, the perspective. I behaved as if I had already accomplished what I desired, and this power completely transformed how people perceived me, and how opportunities presented themselves. This isn't simulation, but rather resonance. It's living from the future configuration you long to build. Because the cosmos doesn't react to what you aspire to, it reacts to what you embody. Countless individuals wait to feel secure before acting, but security doesn't precede initiative, it's built along the journey. It's by taking a step without certainty that inner capability is unveiled. I don't know anyone who has changed their life by postponing the opportune moment. The right moment is when you decide it's enough. That you stop settling for less than you deserve. That it's time to align with what you truly desire to experience. From the moment you intentionally decide to change your vibration, the entire scenario begins to move. Confluences intensify, concepts sprout, the right individuals emerge. This isn't chance, but resonance. You change the energetic field, and the cosmos reacts. It has always responded, the difference is that now you have discernment about this interaction. And I want you to understand that this decisive turning point is irreversible. Once you perceive authority over your own existence, it becomes impossible to return to the belief of being a hostage to circumstances. You begin to act with determination, to express yourself with clarity, to conceive with abundance. Capital, once seemingly out of reach, begins to flow effortlessly, because its vibration no longer focuses on scarcity, it focuses on conviction. I often state that deliberation is the trigger for transformation. It's the moment the cosmos recognizes your readiness to step beyond your comfort zone and expand. When you make a genuine resolution, everything out of alignment starts to fade, and everything in harmony begins to draw near. This was precisely my experience. I deliberated, and the universe responded. At this very moment, the choice is presented to you, to remain in your old resonance, repeating the same patterns, or to decide to change, right now. This is your turning point. And by consciously choosing growth, existence has no option but to follow your lead. Because the cosmos doesn't reward toil, it rewards deliberation. And your decision to continue observing, to open yourself to the future, to commit and follow through on this journey, is the unmistakable sign that you are ready to witness resources and existence finally working in your favor. One of the profound mysteries of abundance is something most people completely overlook: the ability to create spaciousness. Yes, the mere act of creating physical, psychological, and emotional space has the potential to entirely alter the current of your financial reality. I discovered this in the most peculiar way imaginable. On one occasion, after an instructional meeting in Toronto, I returned home to find my furniture gone. Absolutely everything. My food preparation area was almost empty. And before you imagine chaos, what I experienced in that moment was a sense of relief. I had repeatedly spoken about the importance of cultivating space for the new, and my team decided to implement it literally. And guess what? They were right. After a short period, new opportunities began to emerge, more harmonious people, more prosperous ideas. The cosmos abhors a vacuum, it fills every available space with elements of identical resonance. The overwhelming majority of people remain attached to what they no longer desire, and that's precisely why the new never materializes. Many stay in jobs they dislike, waiting for something better, hold on to clothes they never wear, maintain friendships that drain their energy, and worse, nurture thoughts and beliefs that no longer serve the life they truly want. Then they wonder why abundance doesn't appear. But it's simple: there's no space. When you say, "I'll stay here until I'm certain," the universe understands, "I am content with what I have." And it responds exactly that way. Not as a penalty, but as a vibrational match. The power of capital is like water, it requires circulation. If it stagnates, it corrupts. If it flows, it purifies and expands. Wealth thrives on continuous movement and detests excessive accumulation. When you cling to the outdated, you signal to the cosmos a fear of deprivation. And fear constitutes a frequency of scarcity. Scarcity impedes movement. Thus, every time you hold on to something that has lost its purpose, a garment, an item, a habit, a relationship, you obstruct the entrance for the new. It's like trying to fill an already full container. There's no room. I recall the time I decided to give away half of my possessions. Clothes, documents, unread literary works, mementos from a bygone era. This clearing transcended the material plane, it was also vibrational. In the subsequent days, I experienced a unique sense of weightlessness. Suddenly, the phone began to ring, new collaborations emerged, proposals, inspirations. Everything resumed its course. And I realized that energy responds to clarity. By letting go of the obsolete, a powerful message is transmitted to the cosmos: I am ready for something superior. And what's most intriguing is that this principle is even supported by natural science. Reality abhors a vacuum. If you create a void, something will naturally come to fill it. The question is, what do you wish to fill it? If you create space with fear, it will be filled with more fear. However, if you form it with conviction, it will be filled with opulence. This is why detachment holds such immense power. It demands belief. It represents a subtle way of communicating: I have faith that something greater is on its way. And when you nurture that certainty, the cosmos validates it. Therefore, examine your surroundings. How many items do you keep merely out of fear of letting them go? How many circumstances do you tolerate? How many conversations do you repeat? How many ideas do you cultivate that no longer align with the person you aspire to be? Renunciation serves as a link to what is coming. It doesn't constitute a deprivation but a predisposition. You're not discarding what you have, you're harmonizing with what is rightfully yours. It's an act of trust. Begin modestly. Create an empty space in your wardrobe. Discard what you haven't used for more than 1 year. Donate something that could be useful to another person. Note a circumstance that, in your perception, should have already ended, and choose to detach from it. You'll feel a relief, a sense of lightness. This relief is the life force in motion. It's the indication that the current is being restored. proceed similarly with your concepts. Stop telling stories that deprecate you. Stop arguing why it hasn't worked yet. Establish quietness in your cognition. It is in that quietness that the new reveals itself. Fortune is captivated by gentle, clear, and orderly environments. It appreciates transparency and repels disorganization. An overburdened residence, an intellect full of worries, a spirit stuck in the past, all these elements form an imperceptible barrier. However, when you tidy up, when you determine to be prepared, when you trust enough to let go, circulation revitalizes. You begin to discern that capital doesn't appear for rescue, it appears because you have become the individual capable of welcoming it without fear. And, perhaps, at this precise moment, you feel that urge to begin. That's your inner perception whispering to you, immediately. Don't wait for total perfection. Take the first step in your present condition. Every minimal gesture of detachment represents an affirmation of trust in the future. And by acting with a serene spirit, existence responds in consonance. New opportunities present themselves, new individuals emerge, innovative concepts sprout. For the cosmos understands that you have created a vacuum, and absence never remains unoccupied for long. Einstein asserted that everything consists of energy. And this straightforward assertion holds one of the most profound revelations I've ever assimilated. Currency isn't mere paper, nor a figure on a bank statement, currency is vibration. It reacts to the pulse you radiate, just as a receiver picks up a specific transmission. And here's what much of humanity hasn't yet understood: you don't call forth what you desire, but rather what you embody. You can reiterate the desire for prosperity thousands of times, but if apprehension, resentment, guilt, or scarcity reside within, that will be the frequency the cosmos assimilates. And it will react with scenarios that precisely mirror that state. Imagine a radio station. You won't hear classical music if you're tuned to a rock frequency. Financial life operates similarly. When you vibrate anxiety and apprehension, it's as if you're asserting, I don't believe wealth can reach me easily. And the universe, in its correspondence, returns the same pattern. That's why so many people live in an exhaustive cycle of work and disappointment. They toil, plan, try to save, but still emanate scarcity. The effort is physical, yet the vibration is mental. And the cosmos responds to the vibration, not the effort. I felt this firsthand. When I began to shift my frequency, I still owed more than I earned. I worked all day and felt exhausted. However, at night, I would sit and mentally repeat, capital flows freely to me from known and unknown sources. At first, it seemed illogical. I looked at my negative balance and felt like an imposter. But, with each repetition, something within me shifted. I began to feel appreciation for modest amounts, started to believe that, perhaps, I didn't need to strive so hard. Slowly, my energy transformed. And when it changed, wealth began to emerge, from unexpected opportunities, invitations, inspirations that appeared out of nowhere. Nothing changed externally, until I changed internally. Quantum mechanics has already demonstrated that all matter in the cosmos is composed of oscillation. Elementary units react to volition and scrutiny. This implies that your emotional landscape isn't merely something personal, it is, in essence, a generative power. By feeling abundance, you emit a vibrational impression that attracts everything resonating at that same cadence. This is why acknowledgement is so effective. It intensifies what is already favorable and paves the way for the optimal. When you express appreciation, even without having tangible reasons, you communicate to the universe, I place my faith. And faith represents the highest conceivable energetic level. Consider the remarkable historical precedents. Thomas Edison, before conceiving the light bulb, experienced failure thousands of times. However, he vibrated with conviction, not with failure. Each experiment constituted a new opportunity. He didn't see the error, but rather the lesson. And it was this frequency of irrefutable belief that guided him into alignment with the invention that would transform the planet. This is the distinction between those who attract triumph and those who falter on their journey, inconsistency. Now, consider wealth as a dance partner. It doesn't yield to imposition, but to rhythm. If you try to dominate it, it pulls away. If you accompany it in the dance, flowing, secure, with serenity, it follows your lead. This is why certain individuals appear fortunate. They don't fight the current, they are in harmony with it. You can recognize when someone is on this frequency. They are individuals who radiate tranquility, conviction, and magnetism. They don't chase capital, capital finds them. And here lies the vital question: to change your frequency, it's not enough to think differently, it's imperative to feel differently. It's essential to feel opulent before wealth materializes. Close your eyes and visualize, what would it be like to live in abundance? What feeling does that evoke? Relief? Autonomy? Calm? Hold on to that feeling. Feel as if it's already real. This is what transforms your vibratory field. Emotion is the driving force of manifestation. Without it, deliberation is merely an idea. But with emotion, it transforms into a vibrant, palpable force, capable of attracting what you desire. Scientific research confirms, the human heart radiates an electromagnetic field up to 5,000 times more intense than the brain's. And this field reacts to our perceptions. Thus, when you experience the apprehension of loss, you are directing a powerful energy of deprivation to the cosmos. When you feel recognition and certainty, you are emitting a signal of growth. Existence responds to this. It's not magic, it's the science of natural phenomena. And perhaps, at this moment, you begin to grasp, wealth was never the obstacle. The issue lies in the frequency you've been resonating at. Capital is not limited, life force is unlimited. What restricts is your perspective. Change your perspective, and the surrounding panorama will transform in kind. And when that happens, you'll notice something captivating. Money was not designed to dominate you, but to serve you. It is merely a mirror of your resonance. By harmonizing with the energy of abundance, monetary possession ceases to be a worry and becomes an inherent consequence of who you have become. So, instead of striving for more money, raise your vibration. Cultivate calm, gratitude, security. Feel prosperous before seeing the results. The universe doesn't distinguish between what is real and what is felt. It only responds to the frequency you emit. And when that frequency is one of abundance, there is no resistance, no struggle, no effort. There is flow. There are synchronicities. There is plenty. And it is precisely at that point that money finally begins to work for you. Fear. This subtle force that paralyzes so many individuals and, at the same time, can become the greatest sign that you are about to advance. Most people see fear as an impediment, something to be avoided at all costs. But I learned that it is an indicator of expansion. Whenever you experience it, it's because you are facing something that can completely change your life. And that's precisely where most people retreat. They return to what is known, to what is safe, and call it caution. But, in reality, it's the mind trying to keep you in the old programming, the one that prefers predictable comfort over transformative uncertainty. When I decided to leave my position in the fire department, I had no guarantees. No perfect plan, no promise of success. Just a deep feeling that something greater awaited me. And yet, fear consumed me. It was as if an internal voice kept repeating, "You're crazy. Who leaves a stable salary for something uncertain?" That voice was the echo of my old programming, trying to protect me from the unknown. But the truth is, if I had listened to that voice, I would have spent my entire life putting out fires, external and internal, and never would have discovered the power of making money work for me. Fear is not an enemy. It is a messenger. It points precisely to where you need to go. When you feel it, it means you're touching the limits of your comfort zone, the point where the old you ends and the new you begins. Most people believe they must wait to feel ready before acting. But readiness doesn't come before action, it comes after. It's by acting that you discover fear didn't have the power it seemed to. It only seemed big because you fed it with thoughts and assumptions. Audacity is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward despite it. Fear is like a shadow, it looks gigantic when you stand still, but it shrinks when you move. I remember the first time I went on stage to speak about prosperity. My hands trembled, my heart pounded, and for an instant, I thought about giving up. But as soon as I started speaking, the fear dissolved. Within minutes, what was dread turned into excitement. And it was at that moment I realized, life doesn't reward those who wait to feel safe, it rewards those who act with faith. Many people ask me, what if I fail? And I respond, what if you learn something that success never would? Because failure, when viewed with awareness, is just feedback. It shows you what needs to be adjusted. But if you never act, you'll never know what could have happened. The fear of making a mistake is already the biggest mistake. It's what keeps you trapped in jobs you detest, in empty relationships, in habits that distance you from abundance. You call it stability, but in reality, it's stagnation. Money, just like life, loves movement. It flows to those who dare, to those who believe, to those who take risks with faith. Every time you decide to act even with fear, you send a clear signal to the universe, I trust. And the universe responds with opportunities. It might be an unexpected phone call, an idea, a new person. It's as if life says, now you're ready. Faith opens doors that logic would never find. I often say that fear and faith demand the same energy, believing in something you can't yet see. Fear believes in the worst, faith believes in the best. The difference lies in the story you choose to tell yourself. When you believe in the worst, your mind creates scenarios of failure, and your body reacts as if they were real. Your heart races, your hands sweat, and you freeze. But when you choose to believe in the best, when you visualize victory, your body also responds, only this time with enthusiasm, with energy, with magnetism. Fear and faith are opposites only in direction, both are vibrations, and you decide which one to amplify. The people we admire most, great innovators, artists, entrepreneurs, are not fearless. They are individuals who learn to use fear as a compass. Steve Jobs felt fear when he was fired from his own company, but he used it to create something even greater. Walt Disney failed numerous times before creating the empire that changed entertainment. Fear was there, but not in command. They felt it, looked it in the eye, and said, "Come with me." Fear is just a reminder that you are alive. That there is still growth possible, that you haven't reached your limit yet. When you understand this, fear transforms into fuel. It ceases to be a brake and becomes a driving force. With every step you take, the universe responds with a new path. And you realize there's nothing to fear, because life never takes something without offering something greater in return. So, the next time you feel fear, don't run. Take a deep breath and ask, what is this fear trying to teach me? Perhaps it's showing you the next step in your expansion. Perhaps it's just testing you, asking you to trust. And when you take that step, even trembling, you'll realize what I discovered many years ago, fear doesn't disappear before action, it disappears within action. And it is at that moment that the universe, almost as a reflection, begins to work in your favor. Because life doesn't reward control, it rewards trust. For years, I observed people searching for magic formulas to change their lives, waiting for something external to happen, for a stroke of luck, an opportunity, or someone else to change everything for them. But the truth is that transformation always begins within, and it requires a firm decision, sustained by faith and practice. That's why, at a certain point in my life, I started doing something that seemed too simple to work, but which completely changed my financial reality, a small daily practical faith challenge. I would write on a card the words, "I am so happy and grateful now that money flows freely to me from known and unknown sources." And I read this every day, in the morning and at night. At first, it was just a phrase. But, over time, it began to gain power. I read it and imagined what it would be like to live that reality. I felt the relief of no longer having debts, the security of being able to choose whatever I wanted, the joy of helping the people around me. I wasn't just repeating an affirmation, I was training my brain to believe in a new reality. And when your subconscious accepts an idea, the universe begins to move for it to manifest. It's at this point that many give up, because they don't understand that the challenge isn't external, it's internal. The struggle isn't against circumstances, it's against the old programming that tries to convince you that nothing will change. This simple exercise, repeated with feeling and consistency, begins to generate an imperceptible but powerful transformation. You start noticing small changes, a new idea emerging, an unexpected contact, an opportunity that seemed out of reach. Energy begins to flow in your direction, and life starts responding to the new vibration you are emitting. Not because something magical happened, but because you finally started acting in alignment with your vision. During this process, it's natural for doubt to try and creep in. Your mind will say, "This doesn't make sense. How can a few words on a card change my life?" But remember, what creates your reality isn't what you see, it's what you believe. Doubt is the reflection of the old pattern trying to regain control. It's the resistance that arises whenever you approach a new level of consciousness. That's why practical faith is so powerful, because it compels you to persist even without visible proof, and it's precisely at that point that transformation begins to happen. At one of my talks, a man approached me and told me he decided to apply this very exercise. He was unemployed, burdened with bills, and felt hopeless. But even so, he wrote the same kind of affirmation and started reading it every day. For the first few days, he felt like he was lying to himself, but he kept going. On the 15th day, he received an unexpected call from a company for an interview. On the 21st day, he was employed and earning more than in any previous job. He said, "Bob, I almost stopped halfway, but it was precisely at the point when I doubted most that things started to happen." And it's always like that. The cosmos tests your tenacity, because belief without action is just an intention, and an intention without consistency yields nothing. I've experienced this reality countless times. When I first wrote my affirmation card, I was in debt. Everything around me signaled impossibility. But I decided to trust. With each daily reading, something within me shifted. Eventually, my external environment began to mirror my new internal state. I didn't need to force anything, or fight, the current guided me. Financial resources began to work in my favor because I altered my monetary perception. I stopped being someone who sought it out and became someone who naturally magnetized it. For this reason, I present the same challenge. Write down this affirmation. Place the note in your wallet, on your mirror, in your car. Recite it audibly, imbued with its truth. Practice this for 21 days. This is the minimum period to establish a new mental blueprint. And as you do, observe your transformations, your spirit, your vitality, your thoughts. You'll notice synchronicities, the right people appearing, opportunities opening up easily. This isn't coincidence. It's alignment. You are, at last, emitting the frequency of your desires. However, the key is to sustain the emotion. Don't read it out of obligation. Read it with fervor, with conviction, as if rehearsing a new life. And, with every doubt, exchange it for gratitude. Tell yourself, "I don't need to understand the how, only to believe that it's already happening." Faith isn't seeing to believe, it's feeling it beforehand. This simple exercise distinguishes dreamers from manifestors. Many wait for proof to believe, the prosperous believe until it appears. By committing, you train the universe to recognize your determination. And the universe always responds to clarity and consistency. In a short time, you'll notice a truth I assimilated decades ago: it's not the world that changes, but you. When you change, everything around you changes with you. This small card may seem trivial now, but it has the power to rewrite your financial destiny, if read with faith, emotion, and consistency. With each reading, you plant a seed in the fertile soil of your mind. And, as in nature, seeds germinate in silence before sprouting. Trust, therefore, in the process. Keep watering. Keep believing. Because the moment of greatest doubt is the very moment the universe is about to surprise you. Gratitude is one of the most underestimated forces in the universe, yet the most potent for transforming your relationship with money, life, and success. Upon understanding its power, I realized it wasn't just a polite or morally correct gesture, it's a vibrational frequency, living energy capable of opening doors that effort alone could never achieve. When you feel truly grateful, your body, mind, and energy field come into coherence. It's this coherence that makes opportunities appear, resources multiply, and the right people be attracted. Science proves this. Research from universities like Harvard and Berkeley shows that those who practice gratitude daily have higher levels of dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, neurotransmitters linked to happiness, creativity, and mental clarity. In other words, gratitude literally alters body chemistry. The incredible thing is that as your body changes, your vibration changes. You begin to emit lighter, more confident, and more open energy. And money, like all abundance, is attracted by this energy. I recall a phase when, even after achieving a certain economic security, I felt something was missing. I worked hard, achieved successes, but noticed a continuous burden, a veiled apprehension. Until, one morning, on an ordinary day, I sat down with a mug of coffee and began listing everything I possessed. The simple act of writing down my vitality, my companions, my home, my purpose, began to alter my state of mind. What was once routine transformed into a blessing. The oxygen I breathed, the drink I sipped, the sunlight through the window, everything seemed exceptional. In a few days, I identified a profound metamorphosis in my vitality. Business meetings progressed better, innovative concepts emerged, and even financial funds appeared in unforeseen ways. It was as if the cosmos declared, "Now you are ready to welcome more." Gratitude is the most potent catalyst for opulence, as it directs attention to abundance instead of scarcity. Most people spend their days lamenting what they don't have, and, unconsciously, communicate to the cosmos, "My existence is one of deprivation." Every lament is an announcement of emotional penury. However, by choosing to express appreciation, even if you don't yet possess everything you desire, you alter your epicenter of attraction. Gratitude doesn't deny reality, rather, it selects where to focus your perception. And what you focus on, flourishes. I always affirm that gratitude is the magnet of abundance. It transmutes scarcity into sufficiency, sufficiency into plenty, and plenty into infinity. It expands your energetic aura and creates space for more blessings. And, most intriguingly, the more grateful you show yourself to be, the more reasons arise to continue giving thanks. It's a beneficial process, an upward trajectory. The cosmos identifies the soul that values and gratifies those who genuinely employ it. Incorporate this into your daily life. Upon waking, before reaching for your mobile device, tell yourself, "I am grateful for this new dawn." Feel that emotion, even if your day hasn't truly begun. When paying a debt, don't complain. Express your appreciation. This denotes your ability to meet your commitments. Upon receiving any amount, however small, declare in thought, "Thank you, Cosmos. May this capital flow and return multiplied." This simple change in behavior transforms the movement of resources in your existence. People don't realize it, but money is sensitive. It doesn't approach those who treat it with fear, guilt, or ingratitude. It is attracted by those who appreciate it, by those who see it as a tool for expansion. Gratitude clears resistance. It removes the guilt of receiving, dissolves the fear of losing, and creates a magnetic field of deservingness. And the more you feel deserving, the more the universe finds ways to confirm it. The exercise of gratitude also exerts significant influence on your future perspective. It moves you away from the frequency of "when I have," and places you into the frequency of "I already have." This is one of the main strategies for manifestation. For the cosmos doesn't understand time as we do. It reacts to the vibration of the present. If you radiate gratitude now, you affirm that you are already prosperous, and it is this attitude that summons more abundance. Some ask, "How can I be grateful amidst setbacks?" I respond, it is precisely this that will pull you out of them. Giving thanks when everything is going well is easy. But being grateful when nothing makes sense is what changes the game. By doing so, you affirm that your faith is greater than your fear. And the universe rewards faith, not uncertainty. I recall once, at the beginning of my journey, when I was completely out of money. All I possessed was a bill worth a few dollars in my pocket. Instead of lamenting, I looked at it and said, "Thank you. This is a beginning." That same day, I received a call from a friend offering a job opportunity that changed the course of my life. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a response. Gratitude creates immediate resonance. Start now. Don't wait for the right moment to give thanks. The right moment is this one. Make gratitude a daily habit, a natural attitude. Every day, write down 3 things you are grateful for. They can be simple: a smile, a meal, a conversation. In a short time, you'll notice you are calmer, more inspired, more confident. And, without realizing it, you'll find that money, ideas, and opportunities flow to you with much greater ease. Gratitude is the language of abundance. It's the signal the universe recognizes as "he understood." When you understand, when you grasp that you are already blessed, everything that's missing begins to manifest naturally. Because life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you vibrate. And the vibration of gratitude is, without a doubt, the vibration of prosperity. Have you noticed how, when we change the way we see the world also begins to change? Sincere gratitude unveils a subtle path to a more tranquil and fluid existence, where prosperity, opportunities, and the right individuals seem to naturally converge in your direction. It's likely that someone you know, a friend, a family member, or someone feeling trapped, weary, or disheartened, needs to hear precisely these words right now. Send this recording to that person. Sometimes, a simple message is all it takes to rekindle hope in someone. My gratitude for your continued presence, for allowing me to be part of your journey of progress and development. Keep fostering this spirit of gratitude and pay attention to what unfolds in the days to come. And I'll be looking forward to you in the next production, as your metamorphosis is only just beginning.